everybody. Welcome to Seriously Read a Book. My name is John, and today we are reading Junie B. Jones is a Graduation Girl by Barbara Park, illustrated by Denise Brunkus. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and click the bell. Here we go. Chapter 1, The Month of Junie. My name is Junie B. Jones. The B stands for Beatrice, except I don't like Beatrice, I just like B and that's all. I was named after the month of Junie, because Junie is the month I was born in, of course. And wait till you hear this. Yesterday, I finally had my birthday, and now I am 6 years old. That day was like magic, I tell you. Because on Saturday night, when I went to bed, I was only 5 years old, and the next morning, boom, I was 6. Here is a picture of Junie B. Jones looking with some side-eye towards the camera, eating some birthday cake, wearing some birthday clothes. She looks pretty happy about that whole thing. My grandma Helen Miller had a happy birthday party for me. She invited my mother and daddy and my grandpa Frank Miller. Also, she invited my baby brother named Ollie. He is 7 months old. He did not add that much. I love my party a very lot. First, I love my chocolatey cake with white icing. Next, I love my strawberry ice cream. Plus, also, I love my balloons and my funny birthday hats and all my happy birthday cards. But mostly, I loved my presents. I got 5 entire boxes to open. And good news, none of them was clothes. Mostly I got toys and games. Also, I got a tool belt just my size. Plus, my Grandpa Miller gave me my very own plumbing supplies to help fix the toilet. But that is not even the end of all my excitement. Because that night, when Mother tucked me into bed, she reminded me that I am graduating from kindergarten on Friday. My stomach felt jumpy inside when she said that. I quick counted on my fingers. But Friday is only 5 more days, I said. I did a gulp. That event sneaked right up on us, didn't it? I said, kind of nervous. Mother hugged me. You're not worried, are you, Junie B? She asked. Graduation will be fun, I promise. And you're going to love first grade. Here's a picture of Junie B in bed with her mom hugging her. And Junie B kind of has, what sort of face would you say that she has there? If you were to imagine what she's feeling and what's going through her mind right now, what would you say? That's a fun game I like to play sometimes when I'm reading books. What do I think is going on in the minds of characters? Here we go. But Polly Allen Puffer says that next year everything will be different, I said. He says that first grade won't have the same kids as room 9 does, and so all of our classmates will be weirdo strangers. Mother did a frown. No, that's not true, she said. I'm sure you'll know a lot of children in your class next year, Junie B. But even if your best friends aren't in your room, you'll still be able to play with them at recess, right? I nodded my head kind of slow. Yes, I guess so, I said. Plus, Polly Allen Puffer says that we will be the boss of all the kindergarten kids, so that will be fun probably. And also, he says our brains and our feet will double in size. Mother stared at me a real long time. That Polly Allen Puffer is a fountain of knowledge, she said very quiet. After that, we talked some more about graduation in first grade. And guess what? The next day at school, my teacher talked about it even more. Her name is Mrs. She has another name too, but I just like Mrs., and that's all. Mrs. clapped her hands real happy. Well, this is it, boys and girls, she said. Graduation week is finally here. At 7 o'clock on Friday morning, room 8 and room 9 will have our graduation ceremony together. And of course, the children in morning kindergarten will be graduating too. So every single one of you will receive a diploma. I springed out of my chair very thrilled. A diploma! A diploma! I will love a diploma! I shouted. Just then I did a teensy frown. It's not clothes, correct? I asked. A meanie boy named Jim laughed real loud. Ha! You goony bird Jones! You don't even know what a diploma is! He said. I stamped my foot at that boy. "Oh, yes, I do too, Jim," I said. "I know perfectly well what it is, but I am not even the teacher here, and so I will let her explain it to the class." I sat down and smoothed my skirt, then I pointed to Mrs. "Okay, go," I said. Mrs. wrinkled her eyebrows at me. As I was about to say, a diploma is a very special piece of paper. A diploma is a certificate that says you've completed part of your education. As you go through school, you'll get several diplomas, she said, but this one will be your first. I springed up again. "And guess what else, Mrs.? I am not even afraid of first grade anymore, 'cause I'll be getting big feet and brains." Mrs. said, "Sit down," to me. Then she told us more about graduation. She said that as a treat for our families, we'll be making them special graduation invitations. And so that will be our activity for the day. "Yippee!" I said. "I love making invitations, Mrs. On account of that does not even sound like learning." After that, I clapped and clapped. And all of room 9 clapped with me. Because graduation week was starting off like a charm. Chapter 2, Rhymes. I sat at my table very nice. Mrs. passed out colored paper for our invitations. Also, she passed out curly ribbon and lace and paste and bottles of sparkly glitter. "Just as a reminder," she said, "we do not paste glitter in our eyebrows, and we do not put lace up our noses, and above all, we do not glue curly ribbon to our heads and pretend that it's long hair." She looked and looked at me. I squirmed in my seat a little bit, 'cause that woman has a memory like a hawk, I tell you. Finally, Mrs. went to the board, and she picked up her chalk. On the inside of our cards, we're going to write a poem about graduation. Does anyone have any ideas for the first line? My friend named Grace waved her hand all around in the air. "Roses are red! Roses are red!" she called out. "Yes!" hollered room 9. "Roses are red!" Mrs. smiled. She wrote it on the board for us. "Okay, now what about the second line?" she asked. Room 9 hollered again. "Violets are blue! Violets are blue! Violets are blue!" Mrs. wrote that line too. "Very good, class." Now, who can think of the third line? Maybe we should try to mention something about graduation in this one. Does anyone have any ideas? A shy boy named William stood up next to his table. "Graduation is here?" he said, kind of nervous. Mrs. grinned real big. "Excellent job, William. Excellent." She printed it on the board. "All right, there's just one more line to go," she said. "Let's try to make the last word rhyme with the word blue, okay?" She read the first 3 lines out loud to us. "Roses are red, violets are blue, graduation is here." Room 9 thought and thought. Then, all of a sudden, rhymes started coming from all over the place. "My dress will be new," called Lucille. "My dad's name is Lou," called Jamal Hall. "We made it! Woo-hoo!" called Lenny. Just then, Polly Allen Puffer springed right out of his chair and he started laughing his head off. The zoo is PU! He shouted his loudest. Then all of room 9 laughed our heads off too, because PU is the silliest rhyme we ever heard of. Mrs. clapped her mad hands together. Boys and girls, that's enough," she grouched. She hurried to Polly Allen Puffer's table and she put him back in his seat. "I do not appreciate that kind of behavior, young man," she said. "We're trying to write a nice class poem here, Polly Allen, and your rhyme was entirely inappropriate." After that, I tried to stop giggling, but that silly poem kept on staying inside my head. And then, out of nowhere, another funny poem popped right into my brain, and I couldn't even hold it inside me. I quick jumped up on my chair. "Roses are red, violets are blue, graduation is here, and your feet smell like stink," I shouted. After that, room 9 could not even control themselves again, because that poem was the funniest thing they ever even heard. My teacher's eyes got big and wide at me. Junie B. Jones. Didn't you hear a word I just said? She said, very annoyed. Then Mrs. hurried to my table and she took me into the hall and she pointed me straight to the office. Chapter 3. A Good Chuckle. The office is where Principal lives. I know my way there by heart. There is a typing lady there too. She looked over the counter at me. Well, well, well. Would you look who it is, she said. I looked down at myself. Well, well, well. It looks like me, I said kind of quiet. The typing lady pointed at the blue chair. The blue chair is where bad kids sit. Only I'm not even bad, but I still have to sit there sometimes. I put my feet on the edge of the chair and I hid my face in my knees. If you don't hide your face, people can recognize yourself. Finally, I peeked one eye at Principal's door. And guess what? That guy was looking right back at me. Is that Junie B. Jones I see out there? He asked. I did a gasp, because Principal can even recognize me from one eyeball, apparently. I went into his office, and I sat in the big wood chair. Principal winked at me. I'm a little bit surprised to see you, Junie B., he said. You haven't been sent here for quite some time. I nodded. I know it, I said. That's because my behavior has shown considerable improvement. I pronounced the words very perfect. My teacher printed those words on my report card, I said. And guess what else showed improvement? My speaking, that's what. I don't say run anymore, and I don't say thinked, and I don't say throwed. Do you want to hear me say them right? Huh? Do you, Principal? I took a big breath. Ran, 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 thought, 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 through, 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 I said. I smiled very proud. See, I told you, Mother says I am getting a better vocabulary. I said, vocabulary, said Principal. Whatever, I said. Principal smiled. Yes, well, I'm delighted with your improvements, Junie B., he said, but if everything has gotten better, then why are you here? I wiggled in my chair, very uncomfortable. Because it wasn't my fault, that's why, I said. What wasn't your fault? Asked Principal. I wiggled some more. Then finally I told Principal about how my teacher made us write a graduation poem and how she said the last word had to rhyme with blue. And so Polly Allen Puffer rhymed the word P-U, I said. But then Mrs. got very mad at him because she did not appreciate his behavior, young man. Only too bad for me because my brain thought of an even sillier poem and my mouth couldn't hold it inside. Principal closed his eyes. He did some deep breaths. All right, he said. Let's hear it. I gulped, very worried. Then I made my voice real soft. Roses are red. Violets are blue. Graduation is here. And your feet smell like stink, I said. After that, Principal kept his eyes closed a real long time, and he did not say any words. Then, very slow, he put his head down on his desk, and he started to laugh. His laughing got louder and louder. And so guess what? That I started laughing too. That poem was a beaut! Right, Principal? We're having ourselves a good chuckle over this, aren't we? Principal stopped laughing very fast. He raised his head again. No, Junie B. No, we are not having a good chuckle, he said. I'm sorry, your poem caught me completely by surprise. But I never should have laughed like that. He crossed his arms at me. You are right about one thing, though, he said. Your poem is definitely silly. But silly things are not always appropriate to say in the classroom, are they? Oh, here's a picture of Principal with his head on his desk, surrounded by papers, and my guess is that he's chuckling to himself there. And Junie B is sort of laughing too. Your teacher made it clear that she didn't like what Polly Allen had to say, Junie B, but you called out your poem anyway, He made squinty eyes. And please don't blame it on your mouth, okay? You know you could have held it inside. I shrugged my shoulders. I don't know, I said kind of quiet. Maybe I could have. Principal tapped his fingers on his desk. It's a very serious matter to disobey a teacher, Junie B, he said, and I want you to sit here and think about just how serious it is. Can you do that, please? Yes, I said. I can. After that, I squeezed my eyes real tight, and I thought and thought. Finally, I opened my eyes again. Good news, I said. I've said my last stink. Principal nodded his head. That is good news, he said. Then he stood up and he held my hand and he walked me into the hall. It's been an interesting year getting to know you, Junie B. Jones, he said. You're a fascinating little girl. Thank you, I said. You are fascinating, too. After that, both of us waved goodbye, and I started skipping back to room 9. Then all of a sudden I stopped, and I spun around. Yeah, only we're not saying goodbye forever. Right, Principal? Right? Because next year I will get sent down here too, probably. Or else maybe you and I will see each other on the playground. Right? Principal did a chuckle. Right, he said. Hooray! I said, hooray, hooray! And then I turned back around and I skipped to room 9 my fastest. Because maybe if I hurried, I could still sprinkle glitter on something. And that is the end of part 1 of Junie B. Jones is a Graduation Girl by Barbara Park, illustrated by Denise Brunkus. I hope you enjoyed this book. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, click the bell, and YouTube will send you notifications. I'll see you next time. Come back for part 2. Bye.